What if the most dangerous alliance in the world today isn't Russia and China, or North Korea and Iran, but a quiet, patient 25-year partnership between Beijing and Tehran that Western policymakers have been systematically underestimating for 2 decades? Because while America has been focused on sanctioning Iran, containing Chinese technology, and managing Russian aggression, China and Iran have been building something the world has never seen before: a $400 billion strategic partnership specifically designed to make both countries immune to Western pressure, dismantle the dollar-based financial system, and rewrite the rules of the entire Middle East. And the most shocking part? It's been hiding in plain sight the whole time. Let's break down exactly what's happening and why it changes everything. What China actually bought for $400 billion. Let's be specific, because the details of this deal reveal China's entire global strategy in miniature. The energy component alone is staggering. Iran sits on the world's second-largest natural gas reserves and fourth-largest oil reserves. Under the partnership, China receives Iranian oil at discounts of 30 to 32% below market price. That's not a trade deal. That's a strategic subsidy. China is essentially pre-purchasing decades of Iranian energy production at rates that guarantee Chinese industrial competitiveness regardless of global oil price fluctuations. But energy is just the beginning. Chinese companies are building railways connecting Tehran to the Chinese Belt and Road Network. They're constructing ports on the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. They're building telecommunications infrastructure, including 5G networks using Huawei equipment. They're developing Iranian banking systems that operate entirely outside Western financial networks. They're constructing a free trade zone on Kish Island that will become a hub for China-Iran commerce invisible to American financial monitoring. And the military dimension is the one that should be keeping Western strategists awake at night. China is providing Iran with weapons technology, satellite systems, and military training. The deal reportedly includes Chinese assistance with Iranian naval development, anti-ship missile technology, and air defense systems. Think about what that means. China is helping Iran build the military capacity to threaten the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 20% of the world's oil supply passes every day, the strait that American carrier battle groups have policed for 40 years, the strait whose security is foundational to the entire petrodollar system. China isn't just buying oil from Iran, they're potentially buying the ability to hold global oil markets hostage. The Opium Wars in reverse. To understand why China values Iran so deeply, you need to understand what happened in the 19th century. As we discussed with the Opium Wars, Britain used gunboat diplomacy to force open Chinese markets, extract resources, and maintain commercial dominance. The mechanism was straightforward: control the sea lanes, control access to markets, control the energy supplies, and you control nations without needing to conquer them. The United States perfected this system in the 20th century. American aircraft carriers patrol the Persian Gulf, the South China Sea, the Mediterranean, and the Pacific. American naval dominance means American control of global trade routes. American control of trade routes means dollar dominance. Dollar dominance means American sanctions actually work. The entire architecture of American global power ultimately rests on the ability to control what goes through what waterways. China's Iran deal is a direct assault on this architecture. An Iran armed with Chinese missile technology and emboldened by Chinese diplomatic protection can threaten the Strait of Hormuz in ways that were previously unthinkable. If Iran can credibly threaten to close the strait, suddenly American carrier groups in the Persian Gulf become targets rather than guarantors of stability. And here's the critical asymmetry. China gets its oil from Iran overland and through sea routes protected by Iranian naval capacity. America's allies in Europe, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan get their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. If China helps Iran threaten the strait, they're not threatening their own energy supply. They're threatening everyone else's. This isn't the tributary system of ancient times where kingdoms sent envoys with gifts. This is geopolitical judo, using the enemy's dependence on open sea lanes as a weapon against them. The Opium Wars gave Britain leverage through commercial access. The China-Iran partnership gives Beijing leverage through commercial disruption. The sanction-proof economy blueprint. Here's where the $400 billion deal becomes truly revolutionary in ways that go far beyond Iran and China themselves. America's primary tool of foreign policy for the past 30 years has been economic sanctions. And sanctions work because the dollar dominates global trade. If you want to participate in the global economy, you need dollars. If you need dollars, you need access to American-controlled financial systems. If America decides to cut you off from those systems, your economy strams. This is what America did to Iran. Decades of sanctions cut Iran off from SWIFT, from dollar clearing systems, from international banking. Iranian exports collapsed. Foreign investment dried up. The currency lost 80% of its value. The system worked until China decided to break it. Under the comprehensive partnership, China is building Iran a completely parallel financial infrastructure. Iranian transactions are processed through Chinese payment systems, not SWIFT. Trade is denominated in yuan and sometimes barter, not dollars. Chinese banks provide financing that Western banks cannot. Chinese technology replaces Western technology that sanctions deny. Iran is becoming the prototype for what China calls a sanction-proof economy. An economy that can function, trade, and develop entirely within the Chinese-built alternative financial system. And every other sanctioned country is watching. Russia saw this after 2022. Venezuela used elements of this model before Iran fully deployed it. North Korea benefits from Chinese parallel systems. Myanmar, Belarus, Syria, all of these countries are increasingly integrated into Chinese financial infrastructure, specifically because it provides immunity to American economic pressure. China isn't just helping Iran. They're building the architecture for a world where American sanctions don't work anymore, and they're using Iran as the construction site. When that architecture is complete, the most powerful tool in American foreign policy becomes a blunt instrument hitting empty space. China gives them the tools and the protection to act on that motivation. In exchange, China gets a forward position in the most strategically critical region on Earth. The gunpowder lesson, mastered. The Silk Road reborn in the Persian Gulf. There's a historical dimension to the China-Iran partnership that goes even deeper than modern geopolitics. For thousands of years before European colonialism disrupted global trade patterns, the Silk Road connected China to the Mediterranean through Persia. Persian merchants, Persian cities, and Persian civilization were the indispensable link between Chinese and Western commerce. Iran was not peripheral to Chinese historical trade networks. It was central to them. The treasures of Tang Dynasty China that archaeologists find include Persian glass, Persian metalwork, and Persian designs. The cosmopolitan culture of ancient Chang'an, China's imperial capital, was shaped by Persian merchants and diplomats. When China talks about restoring the Silk Road through the Belt and Road Initiative, Iran isn't just a convenient partner. It's the restoration of a relationship that existed for 2,000 years before European gunboats disrupted it. The century of humiliation that China experienced wasn't just about Western powers attacking China directly. It was about Western colonialism destroying the entire Asian trade network that China had sat at the center of. Britain colonized India, France colonized Indochina, Britain and Russia competed over Central Asia, the Ottomans weakened and fell, and Persia was repeatedly pressured by British and Russian interference. The entire web of Asian commerce that had sustained Chinese prosperity for millennia was torn apart by European colonialism. The China-Iran partnership is a restoration project. It's rebuilding the commercial and strategic relationships of the pre-colonial Asian order. Not because Chinese leaders are romantics dreaming of ancient empires, but because those pre-colonial patterns of trade and influence actually served Chinese interests better than the Western-dominated system that replaced them. The 25-year vision. The deal runs for 25 years. That timeline is not accidental. 25 years from 2021 is 2046, 4 years before the 2050 date that Xi Jinping has set as the target for China to become a fully developed, rich, and powerful nation and the leading global power. Within that 25-year window, China is planning to complete the Belt and Road Network, connecting Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. They're planning to establish the digital yuan as a significant alternative to dollar-based trade. They're planning to modernize their military to achieve parity with American capabilities. They're planning to resolve the Taiwan question on their terms. The Iran deal fits perfectly into this timeline. By the time Chinese infrastructure in Iran is complete, by the time Iranian financial systems are fully integrated with Chinese alternatives, by the time Iranian military capabilities are fully modernized with Chinese technology, the strategic landscape of the Middle East will be fundamentally different. American carriers will still be in the Persian Gulf, but Iranian missiles, upgraded with Chinese technology, will make those carriers more vulnerable than they've been since World War II. American sanctions will still target Iran, but Iranian trade, routed through Chinese financial systems and transported along Chinese-built infrastructure, will continue largely unaffected. American diplomatic efforts to isolate Iran will continue, but China's Security Council veto will continue to protect Iran from international consequences. The 25-year deal isn't just an agreement, it's a scheduled transformation of the Middle Eastern order, and America is watching it happen without an effective counter-strategy. The $400 billion question. So why does this matter to you? Because the China-Iran alliance isn't just reshaping the Middle East, it's reshaping the global financial system, the effectiveness of American foreign policy, and the balance of power in the most energy-critical region on Earth. If China succeeds in building a sanction-proof Iran, they've demonstrated that their alternative financial system works at scale. Every other country targeted by American sanctions will accelerate integration into Chinese financial networks. If Iran's Chinese upgraded military can credibly threaten the Strait of Hormuz, the cost of American military operations in the region escalates dramatically while the effectiveness declines. If Chinese-brokered Middle Eastern diplomacy continues to produce results that American diplomacy cannot, Chinese soft power in the region will displace American influence without a single military confrontation. The tributary system that China maintained for 2,000 years wasn't built on military conquest. It was built on being so economically central, so culturally influential, and so strategically positioned that other countries found it in their interest to acknowledge Chinese primacy. That's exactly what China is building in the Middle East through the Iran partnership. Not an empire, not a military alliance, a network of economic dependencies, infrastructure connections, financial integrations, and strategic relationships that make China indispensable to regional stability. And Iran is the anchor. The $400 billion investment in the most anti-American, most strategically positioned, most energy-rich nation in the Middle East. The bottom line. Iran is China's secret weapon against the West, not because China is using Iran militarily, not because China and Iran are ideological soulmates, not because Beijing loves the Iranian regime. Iran is China's secret weapon because Iran's strategic position, energy reserves, military capabilities, and motivated hostility to American hegemony make it the perfect instrument for challenging the foundations of American power in the most critical region on Earth. The $400 billion deal is China's down payment on a future where American carriers can't police the Strait of Hormuz unchallenged, where American sanctions don't cut Iran off from global trade, where American diplomacy doesn't shape Middle Eastern politics, and where the petrodollar system that underpins American global financial power is threatened at its source. It's the tributary system rebuilt for the 21st century, China at the center, Iran as the crucial node connecting Chinese power projection to Middle Eastern energy and American strategic interests. It's the gunpowder lesson applied. Invest in capabilities that challenge the foundations of enemy power rather than competing directly where the enemy is strongest. And it's patient, 25 years, one infrastructure project at a time, one financial integration at a time, one military upgrade at a time. By the time the full implications are visible, the architecture will already be complete. The $400 billion alliance isn't just about Iran and China, it's about who writes the rules of the 21st century. And right now, China is doing the writing. Click on the video on your screen now to keep watching. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and see you in the next one.